You just have a seat there, Russell.
The guy I was speaking with on whatever night that was Russ as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we took every number I had.
Yeah, now they were doing some pretty thorough interviews that night. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I was
All right.
glad to see it.
I'm just going to move your gloves here. That's a little microphone, just to make sure there's nice and clear. As you can see here, everything in this room is videotaped and audio taped.
Check.
You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I
Or?
have never been interviewed like this.
Oh, no? Okay.
This is Russell Williams, the commanding officer of Canada's biggest Air Force base at Trenton, Ontario, entrusted with piloting such dignitaries as Queen Elizabeth II and Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Born in England, Williams came to Canada as a child, where his father worked as a scientist at a nuclear power research facility. After his parents divorced, Williams went to the Tony Upper Kenyatta College boarding school, later graduating from the University of Toronto Scarborough. He joined the military in 1987, spending time at bases in Portage la Prairie, Manitoba and Shearwater, Nova Scotia, before he was posted in Ottawa. Williams went on to earn his master's degree before being named the commanding officer of a transport squadron at CFB Trenton, where he would graduate to the commander of a secret logistics outfit believed to be based in Dubai that supported military operations in Afghanistan. His security clearance rating was top secret. By July 2009, Williams was sworn in as CFB Trenton's wing commander, in charge of Canada's largest and most important military airbase.
Let's get this set up there.
I guess the closest interview by NIS for top secret clearance.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, again, Russell, I appreciate you coming in. An investigation like this, I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate it's been big news, especially down Belleville way. And, you know, obviously our approach to cases like this is that we don't give up on somebody being alive until we get evidence that they're not. So because of that, we're treating Jessica's case as an emergent situation, obviously.
On January 28, 2010, Jessica Lloyd, aged 27, disappeared from her home in Belleville, Ontario.
So we're fast forwarding things that we might normally take our time with, and that's why we're here on a Sunday afternoon.
Sure.
So again, I appreciate it.
Okay.
We're going to do a pretty thorough interview today. Okay. And the reason for that is because the last thing we want is to be calling people back again and again and again. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over a number of things, and I'm going to explain what all those are to you.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I want to explain to you exactly what's going on here. Okay. Jessica Lloyd is one of 4 cases that we're currently investigating. Okay. And essentially what's happened is over the past about 4 or 5 months, there have been 4 occurrences that, like I said, that we're looking into. 2 of those occurrences occurred in September of 2009, and very briefly, they were up in the Tweed area. They involved somebody entering 2 different women's houses in the evening hours and committing sexual acts. Okay.
On September 17, 2009, the burglar entered the woman's home, where she lived alone with her 8-month-old baby, tied her up, sexually assaulted her, and left. 2 weeks later, a woman in Orleans was sexually assaulted in her home. She was tied up, blindfolded, sexually assaulted, and photographed.
In November of 2009, a young lady by the name of Marie-France Como
My people.
was found murdered in her home in Brighton. And we believe that there was a sexual component to that crime as well.
On November 25, 2009, at about 1 p.m., Marie-France Comeau's body was discovered inside her Brighton house. The tidy crime scene, devoid of forensic evidence or fingerprints, suggested the perpetrator was organized and familiar with the premises. She had been brutally assaulted, and the duct tape covering her face had caused her to suffocate.
And then, most recently, we have Jessica Lloyd's disappearance. Okay. So essentially, when you're looking at those kind of crimes, we're looking at a number of different potential criminal charges. All right. We're looking at issues all the way from the most serious one, which is first-degree murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, break and enter with intent to commit sexual assault, forcible confinement. Okay. And so what I want to make sure you understand, and this is what we've been doing with everybody we've been talking to, is that clearly when we find out who's responsible for one or all of those crimes, they could be charged with one or all of those offenses, okay, whether it's you or whether it's anybody else, all right? And that's why it's important that we make sure that people understand what they have to do and what they don't have to do when they're talking to us.
Mm.
Okay, those 4 cases are of concern to us, and you know, you've kind of almost hit the nail on the head about some of our issues that kind of make us want to talk to Russell Williams. Okay, because essentially there's a connection between you and all 4 of those cases. Would you agree? Geographically,
And then I guess
or
I drive past, yes, I would
Yeah.
have to say there's a connection, yeah.
yeah, and that's why I'll be quite frank with you. That's why things kind of evolved when the officers talked to you on Thursday night.
Okay.
We kind of went from there because when I think you discussed with them the fact that you were a colonel
Yeah.
at the base.
I was in uniform at the time, so.
Yeah, so pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, then the connection with Miss Como
Yeah.
was made, and I believe you're a door or 2 down from one of those 2 incidents
I think
in Tweed.
3 doors down, yeah.
Yeah,
Very close, absolutely.
yeah, exactly. So those are some of the issues we wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So just getting back to these 4 incidents that we're talking about. Maybe you could just give me a little bit of history as to your arrival in the base in Trenton. When did you start working there?
Friday on the day, I was, Friday on the day I was at home most of the time. Most of the day I had a sort of a stomach flu.
Okay. In Ottawa or Tweed?
In Tweed.
In Tweed? Okay.
Yeah.
On June 1, 1991, Williams married Mary Elizabeth Harriman, who is an associate director of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada. According to Williams's biography that had been posted on the Department of National Defence website, he was a keen photographer, fisherman and runner, and he and his wife were avid golfers and loved to spend time in their cottage in Tweed, which they purchased in 2004.
Now, I'm not going to walk you through November, but I'm going to take you to a date that's probably pretty fresh in your mind, the day that Marie-France Como.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you found out?
I do. Yeah, I was sent an email. Well, as soon as the ops staff and the base learned, they told me.
Okay.
So I got an email. I can't remember if it was late at night, early in the morning. It was certainly. I saw it. I want to say first thing in the morning because I had just come back from Ottawa. I was in Ottawa for a set of meetings on one of the days. I can't remember what day of the week we're talking about, but yeah, no, I mean, obviously when your people gets killed, it gets your attention. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I very much remember that coming in.
And how did you know Marie-France Como?
I'd only met her once. She was on a crew I was on just after I got to the base.
Okay.
So I can't even remember. I think it was a one-day trip. I did a number of trips in Canada, transporting our troops. Sort of first leg out of Edmonton. We tend to hopscotch them across until they get into theater. So anyway, I can't remember which trip it was, but we did a number of them out to Edmonton just to pick up the troops, bring them to Trenton, and then put a fresh crew on, because we fly out and back in the same day, so pushing the edge of that, and fresh crew on, and then continue on after a couple hour delay.
Okay. Do you know roughly when that happened?
Though we were on the same crew?
The time you met her, the one time there, yeah.
It was soon after I got to the base, so I don't remember exactly, but I would say in the first couple of months, so August, September.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we were to do a similar investigation in your background, is there anything you can think of that anybody may have misinterpreted, or anything in your history that somebody might say Russell Williams
Absolutely.
did this?
No.
Okay.
Be very boring.
What's that?
It'll be very boring.
All right, because essentially that's what I'm looking at. Is it? You seem like a very intelligent person, and I think you can see how a surprise like that would certainly set off
Absolutely.
some alarm bells in our
There's
investigation, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the next thing we need to cover off is, I'll just ask you this straight out. Given the types of crimes we're investigating, do you get much chance to watch television shows, CSI, things like that?
I do watch I prefer Law and Order, but I do watch CSI occasionally, yes.
Okay. So you have an idea of, obviously, the forensic capabilities, things like that are out there. What would you be willing to give me today to help me move past you in this investigation?
What do you need?
Well, would you be willing to supply things like fingerprints, blood samples,
Sure.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Footwear impressions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's what we're gonna ask you to do.
Okay.
All right. Now we have a process we have to go through to do that.
Okay.
And for the blood sample, I don't take the blood sample. We have specially trained officers that are trained to do that.
Okay.
I'm going to step out and make sure they're still available.
Can I assume you're going to be discreet?
It's possible. Yeah.
Because, this would have a very significant impact on the base if they thought you thought I did this.
Well, bottom line, Russell, that's one of the reasons we're here on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
The military certainly be of great assistance to us, especially in relation to Miss Como's investigation.
Mhm.
So that's certainly one of the things that went into our decision to give you a call at home today and see if we could deal with this today.
Okay.
So, okay. Is there any contact that you may have had with any of those 4 women that you may not want your wife to be aware of? Anything like that that we should know about to try and explain why, if your DNA is found, it would help us understand why it may be there.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Talking about the house that was just a couple of doors down from you there in Tweed.
A couple of doors down was
The,
Lori. I don't know her last name. I don't know.
Mazzacati?
I don't even know what her last name is, but there's the woman down the road, 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Her name is Lori. I don't know her last name.
All right, let me just make sure we're on the same page here. Okay. My understanding is she lived at 76 Cozy Cove. Yeah, so she would be the one, the second one, the second incident on your road there.
Yeah.
A couple of doors down. Ever been in her house?
No. We met her once, I think the first summer we were there, so in '04.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting at. Again, this is a credibility issue, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to come and see you 2 weeks from now and say, Russ,
Yeah.
our CSI people were in that house, and what about the other lady down the road on?
I hadn't even heard that name, so no, I don't actually know who that was.
Okay, have you ever visited Marie France Como at her residence?
No.
Okay, all right. So you're quite positive there would be no reason why your DNA would be in any of those
Absolutely.
3 locations. Okay. Did you know Jessica Lloyd even in passing for any reason?
No, I didn't hear her name till it was on the news.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking that is because I know you were asked that question on Thursday night, and sometimes what we find, and again, this is one of those situations that can sometimes cause us to get in a lengthy investigation as somebody that maybe doesn't deserve it. But what can happen sometimes is somebody gets stopped by the police like you did, and they get asked that question, and people, when they're stopped by the police, they can be nervous, okay? So they blurt out an answer, and then they start driving away, and they go, oh, why'd I do that? Because the problem is that once they get asked again, then they feel compelled to maintain that answer for fear that if they change their answer, somebody could find it. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So I want to make sure that's not happening here. I don't care what you said to the officers on Thursday night last week. If there's any communication or contact between you and Jessica Lloyd, you've seen her picture, right, around
I have.
town?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Ever seen her before?
I don't. No, I would say I have not.
Okay. All right. All right. And you mentioned something about doing some renovations at your property in Tweed there. I think you said something earlier about tearing up carpet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Oh yeah.
okay. When did all that happen?
In 2004 or 5.
Okay. Any recent renovations?
No.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I'm covering all the bases here. Okay. What kind of tires do you have on your Pathfinder?
I think they're Toyo.
Okay. Do you know the brand name, or sorry,
I
the
think that
make?
is sorry, the make is Toyo.
Yeah.
I don't know the model.
Okay. Let's see, I'll read this off to you, see if it rings a bell. Ever heard of, does Toyo Open Country HTS
That sounds
make any
right.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you have those tires put on your Pathfinder?
Well, it's the second version we've had of them, so I think it might have been this past fall. They replaced other ones we'd had on the same.
Okay.
Well, Toyo, I can't say that they were the same, exactly the same model, but our dealership here in Ottawa says they're very popular for the Pathfinders.
Okay.
And they were good. They lasted a long time.
All right. The tires that you have on your truck, right? The reason I asked you about that is there any time? I mean, you recall where you were stopped by the officers there?
Yes.
Okay. Did they explain to you what the significance
Said
of
that
the
was her
location
house.
That was her house.
Yeah.
Okay. So you remember that location?
Yep.
Do you remember what the crossroad was, or?
I don't think there's a crossroad. It's sort of just on the south end of 37.
Okay. When you get stopped at that location, has there been a time in the recent 1 or 2 weeks that your vehicle has left that road for any reason whatsoever? Have you driven into a field with your vehicle at all? For any reason you can think of?
No.
Okay. Because I want you to rack your brain here. This is important. So,
Yeah.
is there anything you can remember doing that would have caused you to drive off the road
No.
at that section of roadway?
No, that's my early. That's the early part of the highway, and just head north. It's about 30 minutes from there to. Probably 20 from there to my house.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that when the CSI officers were looking around her property, that they identified a set of tire tracks to the north of her property? Looks as if the vehicle left the road and drove along the north tree line of Jessica Lloyd's property. Okay.
Okay.
They took they examined those tire tracks. And they have contacts in the tire business. Obviously, tire tracks are a major source of evidence for us.
Sure.
Shortly after this investigation started, they identified those tires as the same tires on your Pathfinder.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One of the other things that they do to try and identify the type of vehicle that may have left those tires, well, is they do two things. They talk to witnesses. Okay. There was a female police officer that actually drove by that location that evening and recalls seeing an SUV type vehicle in the field to the north of Jessica Lloyd's house, consistent with a Pathfinder.
Okay.
Could maybe consistent with other things, but consistent with a Pathfinder. And they, what they also do to try and identify the type of the vehicle is they look at what they call the wheelbase width, okay? Because different vehicles, different makes, models have wheelbase width. So they can take those two sets of tire tracks, measure the distance between them, okay, and determine what the width is,
Sure.
and then they can enter that into a vehicle database, and it will spit out the types of vehicles, okay? Your Pathfinder's wheelbase width is very, very close to the width of the tires that were left in that field, okay? Do you have any recollection at all of being off that road?
I was not off the road, no.
Okay. All right. I told you when I came in here that I'm going to treat you with respect, and I've asked you to do the same for me. We talked about the whole idea of how we've approached you here, okay? The trying to be as discreet as possible, okay? But the problem is, Russell, is every time I walk out of this room, there's another issue that comes up, okay? And it's not issues that point away from you, it's issues that point at you, okay? And I want you to see what I mean, all right? This is the footwear impression of the person who approached the rear of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January, okay? All right? Now, I want you to keep in mind that this is slightly smaller, okay, in scale, okay?
Okay.
All right, that's not to scale. That's the footwear is actually bigger.
Okay.
If you look here on the ruler, you'll see that 1 inch is just slightly smaller than an actual inch.
Okay.
Okay? But this is the way it prints off on the computer.
Yeah.
I'm going to move this over so you can see what I mean, all right? Because essentially when you're dealing with footwear impressions, we have a gentleman on the OPP who's basically world-renowned. His name is John Norman.
Mhm.
And essentially with footwear impressions, you're in a situation where you're pretty much in the area of fingerprints,
Mhm.
okay? And essentially what we're talking about here is, especially when you start adding in other pieces of information that
Mhm.
support an investigative position,
Yeah.
okay? This is a photocopy of the boot that you took off your foot
Yeah.
just a little while ago, okay? Now, I'm not an expert in footwear impressions, so I rely on the experts. Footwear impressions are very much like fingerprint comparisons, okay? You take a look at this print, and again, this is one print. This
Mhm.
person walked through, there's several different prints to compare,
Mhm.
so we're going to get features off of one print to compare, features off another print to compare.
Yeah.
These are identical. Okay. Your vehicle drove up the side of Jessica Lloyd's house. Your boots walked to the back of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January. Okay. You want discretion. We need to have some honesty, okay? Because this is getting out of control really fast, Russell. Okay, really, really fast.
Get a map.
Is she close to where she lives? I've got maps of that general area. Which town is she near? Why don't we start there?
I'm not sure if you give me a map of that covers Calabar down to the highway and over to Tweed and south. I'll show you.
Let me see what I got here. I might have something. Is she inside, outside? Probably the biggest area I have there, Russ.
Yeah, you need more. You need a real map.
So where am I going on here to get to her?
In this block here.
Okay. So you're pointing to.
A detailed map of that area, and I'll show you where she is.
Okay. Is she close to a road?
Yep.
All right. Is it something where is she buried, or is she somewhere where if you walk there you would fairly easily see her?
It's here.
Okay. So she's south of 7, east of Tweed,
Mhm.
west of 41.
Mm-hmm.
And what's this road here?
Not sure.
Neither am I. Okay. I'll be right back, okay? Do you want any water or anything?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back. How long has she been there for?
A little over a week.
Was it fairly quick from the time she left?
Friday night.
Friday night?
Yep.
So where was she between Thursday night and Friday night?
In Tweed.
With you?
Yep.
How long was she alive for?
Almost 24 hours, not quite.
Okay. Russ? You're doing the right thing here. Why don't we start with Jessica? How does that start for you?
I saw her in her house on her treadmill. Wednesday night, I guess. noticed she wasn't there Thursday. So I got into the house to look around. Then left. Noticed she'd come home. So I went back in through the back patio door while she was sleeping. So I woke her up. Well, so I raped her in her house.
Williams broke into Lloyd's home while she was out in order to confirm she lived alone, and then parked in a field behind her house to wait until she was home. He then broke into her home and entered her bedroom while she was sleeping. She woke up and Williams hit her in the head. Williams then tied her up and blindfolded her with duct tape. He took photographs of her throughout the assault and videotaped him raping Lloyd around 2 a.m. Lloyd was frightened and cooperated with Williams in an attempt to save her life. She obeyed his directions and apologized when she did something wrong. The attack lasted approximately 3 hours, after which Williams bundled Lloyd into his truck and took her to his home in Tweed. Large footprints outside of Lloyd's home were later found by police, who said they also found smaller footprint impressions as well. Arriving at his home between 4:30 to 5 a.m., Williams forced Lloyd to take a shower and allowed her to sleep for a few hours. She woke up and had a seizure during this time. Williams reacted by saying, "Don't make it worse for yourself. Talk to me, Jessica, talk to me." Lloyd begged Williams to take her to a hospital. She then said, "If I die, will you make sure that my mom knows that I love her?" After raping her again, Williams gave her some fruit to eat, dressed her, removed the duct tape and pretended he was going to let her go, then struck her over the head with a flashlight. When she fell to the ground unconscious, he strangled her with a rope and took more photographs of her. On January 29, 2010, Williams buried Lloyd in a shallow grave.
And then I took her to the car and took her to Tweed. And then I hit her as we were walking. She thought we were leaving. Hit her on the back of the head.
Well, what did the hit on the back of the head do?
Well, I was surprised at her skull gave way. She was there and immediately unconscious. And I strangled her.
What did you hit her with?
Flashlight.
Marie France Como.
November 2009, days before he killed her, he broke into her home and snapped 18 photographs of himself in her underwear and standing next to her pressed Air Force uniform. A week later, Como arrived home, and in a search for her cat in the basement, she found Williams masked and hiding behind her furnace. He was armed with a bag full of plastic zip ties, a camera, duct tape and a flashlight he repeatedly struck her head with. He tore her scalp open, beating her on the head with a red metal flashlight, chased her and tied her to a metal pole, a large bolt piercing her back. Williams then secured the home, dragged Como upstairs and assaulted her for several hours as she pleaded for her life. All the time, he recorded it on camera. "You're going to kill me, aren't you?" she asked Williams near the end of the attack. "Have a heart, please, I want to live." She was blinded and gagged by a towel and tape. He covered her nose and mouth with duct tape. She suffocated to death. Her fingers were still plucking at the rope that tied her arms, trying to wiggle out. He then took more photos. Before leaving Como's home, he bleached her bed sheets, covered her with a blanket and took several pieces of lingerie. Her boyfriend later found her body.
There was an open window in the basement of her house when she was away. I went in there a couple of nights before she came home. Looked around. I went back in there late at night when she was at home. She was on the phone in her bedroom. She actually discovered me in the basement. She was trying to get her cat to come upstairs, and the cat was in the basement, had seen me and was fixated on me in the corner. She couldn't get the cat up, so she came downstairs to try and get the cat, and weren't sure why she came over to me. I guess the cat was staring at me, and she was wondering what the cat was staring at. The lights were on. So when she spotted me, I had the same flashlight. I subdued her. Tied her up, brought her upstairs. And strangled her later in the morning. Well, more suffocated her. Some tape. Left her there.
How did you subdue her? And when you say subdued her in the basement, what did you do?
Well, I had the same flashlight, and she saw me right away. So it was just I hit her a couple of times and around her head, try and knock her out. Didn't, but she was bleeding a little bit. Eventually, after a struggle, subdued her.
Okay. Any blood from that struggle?
Oh yeah. No, not a whole bunch, but a flashlight did break her skin a couple of times.
Okay. What area of the basement did that take place in?
I was hiding behind the furnace, so she spotted me right there.
Okay. Did she recognize you?
No, I had stuff on my face.
Now this flashlight, where is that now?
And Tweed.
In the house?
Yep.
Did you take anything out of Marie France's house or Jessica Lloyd's house?
Yeah, some of their underwear.
Okay.
That's all.
And where is that?
It's in some boxes in the basement here in Ottawa, in that rec room. So we just moved in, so there are boxes everywhere. So on the same side as the furnished room, sort of in the back against the wall.
Okay. What do the other boxes look like?
I think one's a scanner, the box for my scanner.
Mm-hmm.
They're all right next to each other, so a quick look through the boxes there will find it.
Okay. How much underwear is in those boxes?
Probably 60 pieces or so total.
All women's?
Yeah, 60 pieces of theirs.
Of whose?
Of Jessica's and Marie France.
So you took 60 pieces from between the two of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
All right. And they're in a, like when you talk about a scanner, is it a computer scanner box?
My computer scanner is up in the office, and its box is down in the basement, so
Okay.
it's inside that box.
Does any of the underwear in those boxes belong to anyone other than Marie France or Jessica?
Yeah, there's some from each of the other two women.
Okay. Do you know why you killed her?
Well, I think I killed her because I knew that her story would be recognized.
Her story would be recognized? How do you mean?
Well, because she knew I was taking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the two stories in Tweed, that would have been a fairly, yeah, been quite obvious.
So if you didn't take pictures, what would you have done with her?
I don't know.
I mean, she's at your house, right? Well, let me ask you this. Is it 2 lived, right? And 2 died. What was the difference in your mind between...
Well, the attention the first 2 got was very much focused on, obviously, or for obvious reasons, the pictures I took. So anybody else telling stories about pictures, right, would have been a fairly straight line.
Okay, but when this thing happened with Marie France, did you believe that you were already a suspect for what happened in Tweed?
No.
So what were you concerned about?
Well, because I was pretty sure that she was serving military, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have been difficult for investigators to ignore that connection.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. When these pictures are looked at, you talked about being in Marie Franz's underwear on the first night you went in. Did you take photographs of that?
Yep.
What about anybody else's underwear?
Yep. Photos.
Of you in their underwear?
Mm-hmm.
And where were those photos taken?
Well, sometimes in Marie France's case, in her house. The others in my house.
In Tweed?
Mm-hmm.
So is this a matter you would take the underwear, go back, and then at some point put the underwear on and take pictures? What about Jessica's underwear?
She's only her, right?
So you don't have pictures of you in her underwear?
No.
All right. Okay. Well, I guess I just have a couple of questions for you. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more questions, but I guess what's on my mind right now, Russ, is what made you decide to tell me this tonight?
Mostly to make my wife's life easier.
Is what you've told me tonight the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about what you've done? Like what?
Disappointed.
Okay. me ask you this: if this didn't come to the point it's at right now, if for whatever reason you didn't end up on our radar, so to speak, do you think it would have happened again?
I was hoping not, but I can't answer the question.
As you might expect here, Russ, certainly even now, one of the Ottawa investigators mentioned to me that there's a number of incidents that have gone unsolved over the years.
Can I was going to get into that. Can I go to the washroom quickly?
Yeah, I can get somebody to take you to the washroom. Okay.
In addition to the 4 primary incidents, the investigation included probes into 48 cases of theft of women's underwear dating back to 2006. Inside his Ottawa home, police discovered stolen lingerie that was neatly stored, catalogued and concealed. Williams also had pedophiliac tendencies, stealing underwear of girls as young as 9 years old. Numerous pictures of Williams dressed in the various pieces of underwear and bras he had stolen, frequently masturbating while lying on the beds of his victims, and had kept the photos on his computer. Williams was arrested and soon confessed to his crimes after a 10-hour interview. In addition to the 2 murder counts, Williams was charged with the sexual assault of 2 women, breaking and entering, and forcible confinement. He pleaded guilty to almost 90 charges and was sentenced to 2 counts of life without the possibility of parole for 25 years for the murders. He also received 2 10-year sentences for the sexual assaults, 2 10-year sentences for forcible confinement, and 82 one-year sentences for breaking and entering. In April 2010, Williams was placed on suicide watch at Quinte Detention Centre in Napanee, Ontario, after he tried to kill himself by wedging a stuffed cardboard toilet paper roll down his throat.